Hey guys, and welcome back into the channel. Today we are going to be talking and discussing and reviewing episode 2 of Big Brother Season 2. If you did not see yesterday, the first video for this channel was posted reviewing episode 1 of Season 2. We're following suit now with episode 2. Episode 2 picks up, I believe it aired the same day as episode 1, if I'm not mistaken. It was like a 2-night premiere, something. To get the show and the new show at this point in time started out with a bang. Something I kind of wanted to talk about that I didn't discuss in my episode 1 review, something I enjoy very much about this first season well, again, it's season 2, but the first season of this current format of Big Brother, is the fact that there is no prior season. I kind of feel like it's refreshing, having some sort of, like, I guess you could say, an even playing field in terms of the fact that there is no what's the terms? There is no super fans. There is no recruits. That's the kind of the common terms and the kind of common groups of people you have on the current shows. You either have people that are fans of the show and have been fans for years, or you have people that have never seen the show or seen very little of the show and are recruits that are found at various places, oftentimes in Florida or California or places like that. But the fact of the matter is, I think it's awesome with this early season because of the fact that there is no prior season. These are all just normal people trying out for a show, and a show in which that no one knows what the show is yet. And I kind of find that refreshing. This is the only season where you can really say that. And in terms of the common themes of recruits and superfans, it gets worse and worse as the show goes on. And obviously, it's needless to say, you can't necessarily have superfans of a show that's new. They're, a superfan of what? It's the first season. So I just wanted to say that because I do find that interesting and intriguing about this particular season. In terms of the episode, you start out with Mike Boogie. Obviously, he won HOH at the end of episode 1. Start out with him talking about the fact that, it's a little bit bittersweet winning this HOH competition because he knows that he is obviously going to be responsible for killing the hopes and dreams of one person. And that's another thing I find very interesting about these early seasons, not just of Big Brother, but also of Survivor, is the fact that they genuinely and honestly feel bad when they nominate someone. Nowadays you get maybe a cast member here or there that has a real big heart and is a real emotional person, that maybe will feel bad. But back then, it was, needless to say, it was almost everyone felt bad about it. It's just a lack of understanding of the game. They don't understand what the game is. They don't understand the point of it. You really see it in the first season of Survivor and Survivor Borneo. You see it, and it picks up right here in Big Brother 2. And you see that with Boogie. He talks about how he's going to feel responsible for killing the hopes of someone. So you get a lot of Boogie throughout the episode, a lot of diary rooms from Boogie. He handles it really well. I think him winning that opening week HOH was good for the show because I think if, for instance, a Monica wins that opening week HOH, I don't think she would have made such a great episode here because a lot of this episode was centered around Boogie and his thoughts and his diary room sessions. And he was one of, if not the very best in the diary room session right from the get-go. Incredible people skills he had and incredible knowledge of why he was on the show, why he was cast for the show, and he knew how to make good TV. And I think a lot of the others pick up on it as the show goes on, but he knew it right from the get-go. He was one of only a few. So I think, again, as I said with the Bunky Ken storyline, I think Big Brother lucked out here again with Mike Boogie winning the opening HOH, and kind of taking the load for the cast early on, and in particularly this episode and episode 2. Then we go to the more of the Bunky gay storyline in terms of no one knows. Everyone assumes he has a wife because of the fact that he did say he was married, but he didn't say it was to a woman. And again, I talked about in episode 1 how I find this really interesting just to see how times have changed, how viewpoints have changed. But you see again here how he's genuinely worried about the reception he's going to get from his fellow castmates, and in particular Kent. And the first person he decides, and I guess you can say Bunky went around, decided he was going to go around and tell people individually rather than telling them in one big group. And he starts out with Autumn, who, if you saw my episode 1 review, I genuinely hate, do not like her, find her annoying in every possible way imaginable. But I will say this is Autumn's shining moment, I guess, if you will. He tells her first. She's really receptive to it. I think in large part that's because Bunky knew she would probably be one of the ones that wouldn't be judgmental about it. And as I said in episode 1, I don't like Autumn. I find her, almost every aspect of her personality, just disgusting and annoying. But this is one you got to say, give her credit for. She's a genuinely nice person. And maybe at a time where a lot of people weren't receptive to that kind of stuff, she was. And I thought that was great. And I really did, as I said before, I think this was her shining moment, and probably throughout the entire show, which is sad for her. But then what do we have next? We have Mike kind of discussing in the diary room about who he potentially would nominate, and he goes on to say the first two people he would nominate is Nicole and Nicole. Again, as I said in episode 1, she's really rubbing a lot of people the wrong way. She's very grating. She's very judgmental, very pushy. What's a good way of putting it? She has to speak her mind always in every situation. And you see that throughout this episode, as you did in episode 1. Luckily for her, she does have some semblance of self-awareness. At one point, I think there was a competition, which I'll get to, but when you come back from the competition, there's a segment with, and this, or particularly early on in the episode, it was a lot about Nicole. It was mostly a Boogie and Nicole centered episode, but you had Nicole. They show her throughout this segment, her having numerous scenes with different house guests, different members of the cast, and it's kind of a moment where she's talking about how she knows her personality is not fitted for this game. She understands that she's probably going to be an early target because of the fact that her personality is a genuine handicap for her again in terms of gameplay. It just, her personality in general is not suited for Big Brother. Like, for instance, Boogie, his personality in general is perfectly suited for the game. Hers is not. And then you throw in the fact her having a husband and the cast, having a lot of singles, she's not able to, interact and include herself in a lot of the activities and things that they do. So she's got a lot of handicaps and a lot of negatives in terms of things going against her real early on. But the fact that she recognizes it and takes the time to go around to all the house guests and try to explain herself a little bit and try to create some genuine bonds with them. And you see that her have one, I believe it's with Hardy. Hardy's explaining himself to her. She explains herself to him. And I thought that was a big moment in this episode because, as we know, going forward, they create a real genuine bond, one of the strongest in the show. And I think this is, in terms of what the show has shown us, is the beginning of that. And what this episode taught me is, yes, Nicole has a lot of natural handicaps in terms of the game and her ability to go far into the game, but she recognizes them very early on and does her very best to kind of reel people into her, get people to accept her for who she is. But she doesn't just do that. She also then tries to adapt, tries to, in some ways, make herself better suited to go the long distance in the game. And I think that Nicole had a really good episode here. Then we had our competition. It was a luxury comp. What was the competition? Basically, it was a big bowl of oatmeal. Each contestant, so one contestant goes in, has to find a key in this pit of oatmeal. I believe it was oatmeal. And once you find the key, you say the person's name on the key. That person has to join you in the search of all the keys. Eventually, if you can get all the 12 keys, all 12 of you in the pool of oatmeal within 6 minutes, and you all get out within the 6 minutes, they would unlock the hot tub. If they did not complete this task in 6 minutes, the hot tub would remain locked for 2 more weeks, which obviously you got a lot of younger, single, horny castmates. They want that hot tub open. In particular, Mike Boogie, who was freaking the fuck out during this competition. It was hilarious. Him screaming and yelling. He seemed more upset and more nervous and tense in this competition than I think we see him almost the entire season. He really wanted that hot tub open. I think he's 30 at this time, too. It's not like he's 21. I mean, he's single. He's there with a lot of... not. I mean, in comparison to normal cast, this is not a great-looking cast. I mean, Krista's pretty good-looking, but the accent's disgusting, and the rest of them are not great-looking. So, probably the ugliest cast in Big Brother history. And I don't know what that Boogie at that time would have done with the current cast, with all the models and good-looking recruits and all kinds of hot chicks you got going on in the shows now. But all in all, they win the competition. I will say about this competition, it was the very first one of the few that have happened so far that was designed to unite the group. At one point, Boogie calls them the group, the Dirty Dozen. Um, the first two competitions from episode 1, which I talked about, were kind of designed to cause conflict amongst the group. This competition was designed to unite the group, and it did that. At the end, you saw them all happy, celebrating. It's a good, genuine feeling that they completed the task together and won a reward. It was a good competition. Then what do we got? Sorry, guys, I keep looking at my notes. The episodes are long, so you have to take notes. After, of course, the hot tub causes some problems for a few of them. Right after, the house guests play a game that night in the hot tub, and it's like a, what do you call it? I don't know what the fuck you call the damn thing, but basically they go around and the girls are putting like a strawberry in the mouth. The guys have to take the strawberries out of their mouth with their mouth, which in turn they're basically kissing. They talk about, Boogie even says there's a lot of girls there that he wanted to make out with. Justin, of course, is horny as all hell. He's getting all into it, all hot and bothered. But of course, just like episode 1, Kent sits out of the competition, and Nicole also joins and sits out of the competition. And again, it's kind of, the point is kind of made that they're ostracizing themselves from the group. And the way I looked at it, was that fair? Is it fair to look negatively at Nicole and Kent and possibly use that as a reason to target them? Is that fair? I gotta say no. Again, as I said in episode 1, there's a lot of reasons to want to target someone for singling themselves out or keeping themselves out of the group. But in that situation, they really don't have a choice. I mean, Boogie, Justin, Will, I mean, it's kind of like what Ken said in episode 1. It's kind of like a frat party environment. I mean, this was, in a lot of ways, this game is designed, what they're doing is designed for single people. Nicole can't sit in that hot tub and play that game. I mean, could she technically sit in the hot tub? Yes. But, I mean, with all the tension and sexual nature and all that kind of shit going around her, it's just not a good environment for either one of them to be in. If they really wanted to have them join in and give them a fair shot, let's not do what they were doing in that hot tub. Again, I don't blame them for playing that game at all, because I get it. I would want to do the same, trust me. But I also would not hold it against the older members of the cast that are married and have kids. You know, I would not hold that against them for not joining in the frat, the frat party mentality in that hot tub. Like, ultimately, as you'll see, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't affect them in the long term. But the fact that it was even considered that it was a negative that they weren't joining in that, holy shit, that's a loud ass fucking car. You're interrupting my video, man. Big Brother 2, go check it out. But honestly, I just think it was totally fair to hold that against them. Then we get towards the end of the episode, we have and as you guys are noticing, most people that have seen this season are wondering, why is this kid not talking about Will Kirby? Because Will Kirby in the first couple episodes has done almost nothing. We get the first big thing of him in episode 2 here, and that's his involvement in his like ongoing relationship, sexual relationship, or whatever you want to call it, with Shannon, who I do not like in any way whatsoever. And I find this relationship with the two absolutely disgusting. For one, she's in a relationship with another guy, so she basically cheats on him in the house. Will, although it's funny in some ways that, he has so much confidence and his ego's so high. And I love Dr. Will. As you'll see as the show goes on, he becomes just an unbelievable member of this show, and he kind of makes the show what it ends up becoming. He's still referenced to this day. I mean, we're talking 17, 18 years later. He's still one of, if not the most influential player in the show's history, one of the most, and one of the most known. But we haven't got to real Dr. Will yet. This is not real Dr. Will. This is some fucking weird guy who I don't enjoy. Soon enough, we will see the Will that we've known to love, and it will happen. And there'll be even glimpses of it from time to time while Shannon's in the house. But through these first two episodes, this is not the Will that we know and love. Then we have Mike getting ready. He's in the room. He's getting ready to make his nominations. Again, he's having a hard time with it. And especially for a guy like him who is so well liked. I don't know if, obviously, again, they don't understand the show at this point, but he really, in that situation, wouldn't have needed to win that HOH. Obviously, he had no control. It was voted on in that wheel game from episode 1, but in the long term things, it was bad for him to win this. He was really well liked. His personality was suited for the game. This just caused problems for him. But again, it's an even playing field. No one knows what they're getting themselves into. When he decides ultimately, and what he ends up doing here becomes like a staple phrase and whatnot, or something that goes on time and time again in every season. And one of the most like well-known phrases in the game, and that's the pawn goes home in Big Brother. No one wants to be the pawn in Big Brother, and it started here, the very first nomination in week 1 of season 2, and that's when Mike Boogie decides to nominate Nicole, who I've talked about in these reviews is causing a lot of issues, is very pushy and just genuinely not real liked in the house, and then he puts her up against Cheryl, who's like the mom of the house, really well liked, gets along with everybody. A little boring, a little invisible on the show, but she's really well liked. And his mindset is, well, Nicole's not nearly as liked as Cheryl, so she's going to go home easy. Nicole's going to go. Cheryl's too nice for a person to hold it against me. It's a win-win. Little does Mike Boogie know, he doesn't understand the game the way he thinks he does. And I don't know how many people really knew how the rules of the game weren't set yet, so I don't really think many people understood that he was making a mistake, but one person did, and that was Kent, who I talked about in episode 1, I really like. And he says it at the end of the episode. He says he believes Mike Boogie made a mistake here because in the grand scheme of things, Cheryl is the bigger threat to win this game, not Nicole. And I'm not going to get too far into it because we're going to review episode 3 and 4 and so on and so forth, but Boogie's in for, a rude awakening. And I just found it interesting. This is where the pawn theory, the pawn goes home, this is where it originated from. All in all, this was a great episode. Like I said, it was a very Boogie and Nicole-centered episode, but all in all, it was a great one. And I'm really excited for episode 3 and to review it. All in all, for this episode, I'm going to give the MVP to Mike Boogie. I thought he did a really good job kind of handling the spotlight in this episode. The characters are great. The casting is great. And I'm looking forward to review episode 3, guys. So thanks for checking in. Be back for episode 3, possibly today or tomorrow. But again, comment, likes, please subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Like I said, this is a new channel. But thanks for checking in, guys. I'm out.